Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our 307th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us on this webcast, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Now, the way this call works is this is an AMA, like you see on Reddit, meaning you can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, career questions, investing questions, startup questions, personal growth questions, any questions you want to. And my humble goal is to help you take your career, your portfolio, your personal growth, life, etc. to the next level. So before we begin, I got one very quick housekeeping announcement. So next week on February 27th, there will not be any office hours that day. That's 1 week from today because I'm out of town in Mexico at a conference. We will resume the following week. Now, I want to kick it off today by talking about the number one wealth generation strategy that nobody talks about. And that's giving. Now, before I start and give you examples, let me first of all talk about this book. I recommend everybody read this book or listen to the Audible version of this book. It's called Give and Take by Adam Grant. And the bottom line message from this book is the top 1% of people in the world by net worth have one thing in common. They're givers. I'm not talking about giving money. I'm talking about giving their time. And that's surprising because we think of a lot of billionaires as being avaricious, selfish, etc. But a lot are very nice. Now, one of the reasons they became billionaires, not that that's a measure of how much I respect somebody, but one of the reasons they became billionaires is because they helped other people. And you can do the same thing as well. And it's not help by giving money. It's help by giving advice for free. Now, in order to progress through the companies you all work at, if you work at a big company, you can't do it without many mentors. And mentors will guide you. They're like your Yodas and help you get to the next level. And you need to mentor as well, because when one teaches, two learn. And when you teach other people about success factors, you're kind of reminding yourself of what your DNA subfabric blueprint is for success. So I want all of you to please mentor other people. It will help your career materially. Now, I remember when I went to Columbia University, I graduated with an MBA 8 million years ago in the year 2000. Henry Kravis, who basically created the entire private equity sector, he's a billionaire. He started a company called KKR with two buddies. He presented to us, and he was a graduate of the school as well, and he was a straight C student, by the way. But when he presented to us, I was so excited, because I couldn't wait to hear about how he made a fortune on many private equity deals. But all he did for an hour and a half, and I sat front row center, I was so excited, was he talked about the importance of giving your time to mentor people along the way. So everybody's homework this week, please, is to find 2 or 3 people in your company or in your circle of friends or family members that you can mentor, including maybe a younger cousin, a younger brother, a buddy's kid, etc. Because the bottom line is when one teaches, two learn. Okay. All right, let's move on now to questions. First up, I've got Chetan who wrote, "Good morning, sir. Call me Chris, please." Ali, how are you? Great to see you. You've been on my weekly forever. I love it. You wrote, "Humble greetings from Zambia. I know you usually mistake..." I read everything, by the way. "I know you usually mistake me for the other Ali who was your gold MBA student sometime back. I'm Ali from Zambia, your silver MBA student, and I love you and your family. Thank you. It's always good to see you. Sorry about that. I've got 2 million paying students in every country in the world. It's hard for me to keep up. Also, the older I get, the better I was. I do have senior moments, folks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm 53 years old, but the average life expectancy today versus the 1950s is 26 years longer. So I'm really a 27-year-old man-child. And I got to tell you guys all this. There's no webcast next week, but more importantly, okay, I'm going to pre-announce right now. GTA 6, we know, is now officially coming out later this year. When it comes out, you're not going to see me for a month because that's all I'm going to be doing is playing GTA 6. Yeah. Okay. I once had a manager who called me sophomoric for playing video games in my 20s. Okay. All right. He still works at the same company. All right. Next up, Lay wrote, "The silent generation is in the house." Great to see you. You wrote, "I'm not from South Africa." Maybe that's someone else. Okay, thanks. And then Ali wrote here, "Do you think investing in real estate generally is a good idea in a third world country? I can provide the stats if they're important, for example, GDP, inflation rate, etc. I think real estate is the most important investment anybody on this call will ever make. Because think about how much money you waste on rent. And I certainly have a lot of courses that will help you to write a business plan for investing in real estate and other sectors." Now, when it comes to investing in second or third world countries, it's tricky because you've got policy risk, right? So if a country is left-leaning, meaning more socialist, I'd be very careful and probably wouldn't want to invest in a third world country, per your question. Now, what Trump is doing right now with Elon Musk, I agree with some of the stuff he's doing. I'm trying to be intellectually honest about everything, but I disagree with some of it as well. So what Trump is doing with Musk is, with the Department of Government Efficiency, as you all know, they're cutting expenses big time because we have a massive deficit. One of the problems with this, and I agree with some cuts, I do, but a lot of the cuts that you hear about are actually set up by the State Department, or have been over the past couple decades in the United States, to encourage democracy and capitalism in other countries overseas. A lot of them are. And if the United States stops trying to promote democracy globally, free elections, etc., then my fear is that longer term, the world will start moving a little bit more towards the left, meaning China, with their communist agenda, might have a little bit more influence in a lot of countries. So I tend to disagree a bit with what Elon Musk is doing right now. So when it comes to real estate in general, though, I don't ever want you to invest in real estate or start a company or invest in any stocks without first writing a thorough business plan. And so in my MBA degree program, I've got here a real estate course. You can check it out on my website if you want to. And what I do is I ask you to enter in your country, the city, and the address. This is one of the houses I own in Canada. It's real estate rental investment property. Then I ask you tons of questions about the property. We value it different ways. And what comes out of this is a one-page executive summary and a massive business plan as well. Now, it's a cliche, but they say that failing to plan is planning to fail. Don't ever start a company without writing a thorough business plan first. And this here is the output as well. It's a 27-page real estate business plan that explains everything about real estate and the property you want to buy from scratch. Now, it's my humble goal that within 10 to 15 years, that my students make way more money from the real estate investment properties than they do from their base salary. It's a lot easier to do than you think. Now, this room here that you're looking at, this used to be an Airbnb room when I first bought the house. I had to use this to open the curtains because, I'm lazy. But whenever you're going to look to buy a house, okay, or an apartment even, I want you to see if you can build a separate door to another room to be able to rent out over Airbnb. Separate door for security reasons. Find out if you can rent out over Airbnb at all, actually. Some municipalities don't let you do it. And this will pay for your mortgage. Now, I run my own company, and I encourage you all to write business plans to start your own companies as well. Because if you make $100,000 working for somebody else, or $100,000 working for yourself, you actually really make closer to 150 or 200 grand working for yourself because you get a lot of deductions. So, for example, this room right here, my company rents it from me. So there's a lot you can do. But before buying a piece of real estate, look to see if you can use Airbnb to do it. Now, the great thing about owning investment real estate properties, okay, is you can write off depreciation. You can also write off an unlimited amount of interest, that's right, unlimited, on the mortgage. It's not your primary home, and it works in every country. And this is how billionaires do it. They own lots of property, lots of real estate. And back in 2016, during the first televised debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, Hillary made fun of Donald Trump for not paying much in taxes. And his response, he's fully transparent. He said, "Of course I don't. I own lots of real estate, so I get to write off depreciation." And so very wealthy people are usually self-employed or they own real estate. And I want you to do the same as well. because you get a lot of write-offs. Now, the 20 richest families in the United States pay, I think it's about 20% in taxes per year, which is way below the highest end tax bracket, which is closer to 40%. The reason is because they get lots of write-offs. And regardless of whether or not you own your own company or you work for somebody else, I want you all, please, I'm going to get down on my knees because I do care about this. Hey there. I want you all to please get an accountant. Doing your own taxes is like doing surgery on yourself. And I know that's an extreme comment, but the tax code changes all the time with new government administrations, etc. And a great accountant can keep you out of trouble and also get you way more write-offs than you think, like writing off this room because my company rents it from me, etc. All right, let me move on to more questions here. And if anybody wants to drill down into real estate in more detail, please let me know. My grandfather, God bless him, who's with my sister, Catie, I love and miss you both, used to always say, Chrissy, buy land. They're not making it anymore. All right. Next up, Enikon, how are you? Solomon, great to see you. Zubair, good morning. And then Ali wrote, I love you, my mentor. When we meet in person, remember, I have alligator hands and T-Rex can't do push-ups. That's right. And whenever you do an informational meeting with somebody at work, this is crucial, okay? At the end of the meeting, if it's a coffee meeting and you're in a coffee shop, when the bill comes, you have to do this immediately. I have alligator hands. I can't find my wallet, and T-Rex can't do push-ups. And I'm looking forward to meeting you, Ali, in person. And for my gold, platinum, and diamond students, I've got a 3-day in-person graduation annual networking event that's coming up this September here in the Bay Area. We're going to go to Napa Valley as well. Go to harounmba.com and then go to the second item here in the login to learn more about it. Or it's a third item here. Okay. I'm looking forward to meeting you. When I do meet you, please keep in mind I'm a tiny man. You have to look for me. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I think I'm six feet. Yeah. Okay. Although they say you shrink when you get older. So soon I'm going to be like this. Hey there. Okay, next up, Jim Culture wrote, hey, Chris, I'm sitting for the CFA tomorrow morning and want to wish you and your family well. Thank you so much. The CFA, I think, is better than an MBA. The CFA is more respected, in my humble opinion, on Wall Street. The CFA stands for Certified Financial Analyst Designation. It's a 3-year exam you take. A 3-year course you take. You take one exam every year for 3 years. I think it's wonderful. Best of luck. And let me give you one quick tip. And I mentioned this before. I'll make it quick. But if you're stuck on a question, and this will apply to everybody, the massive total addressable market on this call, here's how you ace multiple choice questions without reading the questions if you're stuck. Okay. You have to think like a lawyer. I'm not a fan of lawyers, as you know, unless you're a civil rights lawyer or you represent me. But when you answer questions, you got to think like a lawyer. So if I told you this color here, what color is this color here? Okay, it's a multiple choice question. And the answers are A, it's always white. B, it's never white. C, it's sometimes yellow. What's the right answer? Well, think like a lawyer. Is it always white? Well, I could probably find an exception if I change the lighting a little bit. It might be grayish, right? So that's wrong, A. It's never white? No, it can appear white. Kind of looks white right now. Or C, it's sometimes yellow. Well, if I had yellow light in here, it could sometimes be yellow. So the wishy-washy answers are always right. Think like a lawyer only when you write multiple choice tests. If you're stuck, of course, it doesn't work with numbers. Good luck. Enjoy the test. When I wrote CFA Level 1, I worked at Goldman Sachs. It was right after 9/11. And they sent us out at Goldman to New Jersey to a massive warehouse to write the exam on a Saturday. And on a serious note, right before the exam started, the proctor said, can everybody please stand? And we all stood. And the proctor said, before we start, I want to read off the list of CFA charter holders that died on 9/11. And it felt like we were standing for 15 minutes. It was so tragic. A lot from Cantor Fitzgerald. Very sad. All right, next up, Frank Good Times wrote, good morning, Chris. Thank you for the emoji. Good to see you. Okay. And then next up here, Ali wrote, by the way, my wife has a charity organization called Orchard of Heaven and needs a partner to build a school here in Zambia. I can explain more in our silver call one of these fine days. Yes, I will do it. So my goal and the reason I do what I do is I use a lot of the profits to build schools, as many of you know. So we finished Rwanda a couple of years ago. We're working on Kenya right now. And then what we're doing next year is we're going to be doing, this is the Kenya one, here are my students, my board. We're gonna do Nigeria next year, and then I think we're doing Ghana. But we let's talk about Zambia. I promise you we'll do it. My goal is to build 1,000 schools in Africa, similar to this one here I paid for in Rwanda in my life. Yeah. And if I was a quota-carrying sales rep and I got it pre-announced negatively, I'd be fired so many times because I set my goals so high. But as James Cameron once said, a great Canadian director, writer, producer, etc., he said, if you set your goals really high and you fail, you still fail above everyone else's expectations. And we all have to have a sense of purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing? For me, it's not money. Okay. Yes, I will help you as well. I'll finance that school for you. All right, next up, Neil wrote, greetings, folks. Neil, first time seeing you on the call. Hope you join us again. Thank you. Shahar, how are you? More coffee. Okay. All right. And then next up, Mateo, who's one of my gold students, I think, from Italy, 27 now, right? Great to see you. Catherine B in the house. How are you? Okay. And Neil's question is, Chris, what does rising housing cost in combination with decreasing buying power of people and a slight recession mean to the future of the company's economy? Yeah. Sounds like there's inflation, mass inflation. And my guess, I'm not sure what country you're based in, but that to me sounds like Canada. Housing prices are rising because Justin Trudeau, who's not my favorite politician, I went to school with him at McGill, I can tell you stories about him. But Justin Trudeau let in too many people into the country, which drove up the price of housing to the extent that the housing cost is much higher in Canada, in many parts, yes, than it is in the United States. And the GDP per capita is much lower. Yeah. And there's inflation as well in Canada right now. It's going to get worse, in my humble opinion, because of these ridiculous tariffs. I mean, because of these tariffs that are going up. I agree with some of them, but certainly not all of them. Yeah. So that doesn't look good for the economy. Yeah. All right. And as a Canadian, I live in the United States. We love our neighbors to the South America. Yeah. And all that booing at hockey games really breaks my heart. That should not happen. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Jazzy, who's in my MBA program, Gold and Platinum, started on January 27th, wrote, hi, Chris. Happy Baby Friday. Thank you. How do I work with a CEO directly in a small startup to accelerate my career and know his perspective to solve problems, et cetera? Yeah. So number one, and I hate to mention politics, and politics is one of the reasons I left the corporate world to start my own company. When I worked at Goldman Sachs, which was a great place to work, and they don't hire the smartest people because they hired me. But after I left, I understood why so many successful politicians come out of that place, and I do love that place. But when it comes to politics in any company, I don't want you to talk to the CEO without first going through your boss, right? Unless the CEO hired you directly, okay? Go directly to your vice president or whoever you report to. If you do have conversations with the CEO, make sure that you clear it or understand the corporate culture where you work first with the person that you report to. Yeah, okay. But what I would also always do is for everybody that works for somebody else, whenever somebody asks you, like your boss, to do something, I want you to always ask them this question. No problem. Please let me know when you need that by. And then deliver to them ahead of schedule, of course. All right. And I've gotten a lot of questions about, I'm interviewing for a company. How much money should I ask for? Well, when it comes to negotiating your salary, never bring it up until they bring it up. But what you're going to do is this. You're never going to tell them your base salary right away, because you're going to get underpaid, and I'll tell you why. So if they say, in terms of salary, let's have that discussion. What are you thinking of? You're going to say this. Well, my compensation package at the company I'm currently at is $150,000. Now, if they drill down, then you can tell them this. Okay, let's pretend that of that 150K, 100K is your base salary. Okay, 20K is maybe retirement savings matching. Another 10K is maybe childcare benefits. And another 20K is maybe stock options, which cost them nothing to give you. That will give you better bargaining power by saying 150 instead of 100. And there's nothing unethical about it. Okay, moving on to Catherine wrote, is this real estate framework available as part of the MBA? It is, yeah. And I'll show you just very quickly. So if we go to products and services, and I just changed my website. Give me 1 second. Products and services. If you go to MBA degree here, you'll learn more about it, including what all the electives are that are included. Now, the real estate elective is it's $500 standalone. Okay, I don't want to make this an infomercial. Okay. All right. Next up, Brandon wrote, hey, Chris, can you please share, is there a guideline for buying or selling using limit orders? In other words, is there a percentage above, below the market price you'd set the limit at? Thank you. Yeah, never ever, when you're buying a stock, don't ever set a market order, meaning don't buy it at whatever the last price was. If it's a very liquid stock that's a little bit volatile, you can certainly set a limit order that's 2 or 3% below where the stock is now. If it's a very illiquid stock, meaning it doesn't trade much, you can even set a limit order GTC good till completed 10% below. Yeah, and just be patient when buying. Yeah. All right. Next up, Boss SMG wrote, hi, Chris, I love the MBA program. Thank you. Is it hard to start your own company? No, it's easier than you think. But I will not let any of my students start their own company until they complete the venture capital bootcamp part of the MBA degree program. Because failing to plan is planning to fail. Okay, so in the MBA program, go to the 3rd semester. Okay, that's E31, Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1, and complete this entire spreadsheet in the 15-hour bootcamp with me. And this will create your qualitative and quantitative business plan, as well as all of your slides. Okay. Now, the way that people know that they have a good business plan, or a business plan that has a greater probability of actually making money, is if they finish the business plan. It's easier than you think. Now, with a business plan, at least the template I provide my MBA students with and my corporate clients, what I do is I ask you 700 questions. And maybe after answering the first 50 questions or so, you might convince yourself that, hey, this idea sucks. Like maybe the total addressable market is too small. Failing to plan is plan to fail. Always write a business plan before considering starting a company. Yeah. And never use your own money. I mean, you can use a little bit, of course. But if you really want to scale your business, you got to use OPM, meaning other people's money. And I recommend raising money from high net worth investors initially before venture capital firms. I've humbly raised more than $1 billion in my career. I can certainly help you with that in terms of go-to-market strategy, raising capital, etc. Yeah. All right. And never get a loan from a bank, people, ever, please, to start a company. Banks are chicken. They don't take risks. You miss one payment, they can take the company. Always do equity investors, okay? And you don't have to give up control of your company when somebody buys part of your company. So in my MBA program, we do a case study on Facebook. It's now called Meta. And this here is the S1 document from the IPO back in 2012. I invested in Facebook in my venture capital firm as well as when it was public. And here on the cover page for the S1, it states that after the IPO, Chairman and CEO Mark Zuckerberg will hold or have the ability to control 57.3% of the voting shares. So you can still retain control of your company if you raise capital. There's a lot to it. If you have additional questions and you want to double click into more detail, let me know. I just dated myself by saying double click. Okay. Tommy wrote, can you claim depreciation without a mortgage? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If you own an investment property, you can claim depreciation. If it's your primary house, as we say in Canada, you cannot. Yeah. And the way it works is depreciation is different based on the asset class. If it's a residential investment property, you can depreciate over, I think it's 29 and a half years. If it's a commercial property, it's over 39 years. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Brandon. Hey, Brandon. Brandon wrote, just to add, if I may, sure. How would you set a limit order outside market hours when you likely do not know what the price will open at? Yeah, it's tough because what happens is AMC, after the market closes, a lot of companies report earnings 4 times per year. And if a company beats earnings by 20%, often the stock spikes 20% and vice versa. So make sure that you read the entire press release, meaning the 8K of the company that just reported earnings, and listen to the earnings call if you can. And understand that after hours, if you set a limit order that's maybe 10% above or 10 or 15% below where the market is, that the stock is very illiquid because they say on Wall Street at 4 o'clock, I'm a dinosaur, meaning a lot of traders go home. Yeah. All right. Next up, Arturo. Hey, Arturo. Wrote, at 56, excellent, welcome to the 50s, I decided to chase my dream career in radio announcing. Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm sending requests for meetings with people in the industry and looking for mentors too. I hope someone finds me worth it to give me a chance. Yeah, it all comes down to networking. And for anybody that wants to change careers, I don't care how old we are, or if anybody that wants to get a job, don't send in your resume, ever. Because every time you see a job opening online, you have a 1 in 250 chance of getting the job. The person that gets it knows somebody at the company. So in my MBA degree program, the first thing we do is we talk about networking and how to get to know people in companies that you want to work at. And my success rate, humbly, that's a Canadian about to brag, my success rate on getting meetings with people I've never met before leveraging LinkedIn and my methodology for networking is 95%. And I don't say that to impress you. Rather, I say it to impress upon you the fact that you can do it as well. Now, I always tell my students, I say this with love in my heart, I can take you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. You have to use my methodology when it comes to networking and leveraging LinkedIn, etc. It works, I promise you. And the best way to think about networking is this, okay? And this will change your life because you only have to be right in business one time and one meeting can change your life. Leverage LinkedIn and find at least 2 things you have in common with somebody and reach out to them, okay? And if you think to yourself, Chris, why the heck would somebody take a meeting with me? Well, here's how I want you to think about it. I want you to imagine this. It's 20 years in the future and you're way more successful than you already are today. And somebody reaches out to you and sends you a LinkedIn email. And it says something like this. John, hope all is well. I also graduated from the Toronto French School. And I also went to McGill University. This is stuff about me. And I also live in the San Francisco Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee or a Zoom meeting. Thanks a lot, Chris. Now, this person that sent you an email reminds you a lot of yourself when you were 20 years younger. Would you take that meeting? You're darn tootin' you would. That's Minnesota talk. You would. So please have the foresight and the persistence to send tons and tons of emails because one meeting can change your life. Yeah. All right. Let's see what do we got next here. And then Arturo, if you want, you can join my MBA program or just go to my website, harounmba.com, and we can have a conversation. Actually, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you. This is fun. So if you go to my website, give me 1 second. Yeah, when you go to my website, just go over here to MBA degrees. And then down here, and I'm covering this up here, schedule a Zoom call with me. And I'd love to talk to you. Even if you don't buy my products, I don't care. But anyway, you can set up a meeting with me there. And that goes for anybody that's interested in, I don't know, leveraging networking, et cetera, to take your career to the next level. I live for this. Okay. All right. And then Tommy wrote, are securities basically stocks or bonds? Why are they all called securities? So kind of think of it like this, okay? So securities basically means stuff to invest in. That's the umbrella. Everything's under it, okay? Sort of, right? Usually people think when they say securities, they mean stocks, but I've heard people refer to that as being bonds as well. It's kind of like when you invest in derivatives. Derivatives is the umbrella term, which includes options, swaps, forwards, contracts, etc. Yeah, and the derivatives market is 6 times bigger than the global market cap of all stocks combined. Okay. And why are they called securities? I guess because many, many years ago, the way it works, and I've got a bond from World War II here. Here's an example. This is actually a recent treasury. Okay. It's called securities because this piece of paper, right, this custodial product here, secures and represents what you own, I guess. Yeah. Or just use ChatGPT or DeepSeek. Sorry. I'm going to be out of a job soon because of ChatGPT. All right. Next question is, when a company is in growth mode or phase, as a business person, what does that tell you Or what should that mean to you? Yeah, that means to me that they're trying to grow revenue, which is the top line of the income statement, as fast as possible. And they don't care as much about earnings because it's a growth company. Okay. Now, when a company is growing like mine, right, and we're growing very fast, I just hired a sales team and other people as well. I spend more on expenses and I make my net income smaller. Now, the second I stop growing, right, I can certainly keep growth barely growing, right, or revenue, I should say. And then what I can do is I can cut expenses so that the bottom line is much higher. And there's two different classes of investors. This is crucial. Number one, you're either a growth investor or you're a value investor. Now, a growth investor usually likes to invest in high growth tech stocks that seem expensive today. And it's okay if they're expensive today because they're spending on growing and their earnings are going to be insanely high in the future. And the best investors that I know of, the Peter Lynch's of the world from Fidelity, as well as the top hedge fund managers from Tiger Cubs, what they like to do is invest in companies that are expensive right now, but who cares? Because they're not expensive in the future. And so when you value a company, and the way I've humbly done it and done well, humbly, is I always value a company based on my earnings estimates in 5 or 10 years, as I'm a growth investor. Now, a value investor is somebody that likes to buy stuff that's cheap on a price to book basis or throws off a lot of cash today that's not growing very much, like Warren Buffett, for example. And usually people in university, MBA level, they're value investors because you're taught, hey man, buy low, sell high, buy stuff when it's cheap. And if a stock is in the middle of growth versus value, which happens to all big companies because all big companies can't grow over time, when it's transitioning from growth to value, don't ever touch it because that's investment purgatory. And nobody knows what it is, a growth or value stock, so no one's going to buy it. Growth investors are like, hey, it's not growing fast enough. I'm not going to buy it. Value investors like, WTF, why the face? I'm not going to buy it. It's not cheap enough yet. And so it can be in no man's land for many quarters, many years, unless a private equity firm or an activist investment firm like a KKR, for example, were to that's private equity, were to buy a stake in the company and split it up, to unlock shareholder value. Carl Icahn. Okay, so that's what Carl Icahn did with eBay. So eBay wasn't growing at all for many, many years, and the reason was because it had two components: the auction business, which growth investors hated because it's not really growing, and it had the PayPal business, which growth investors loved because it was growing quickly. And so people were like, I don't get it. I'm a growth investor. I can't buy eBay because it's got that auction business. And the value investors were like, I don't get it. I can't buy eBay because it's got the PayPal division, which is growing fast and is not profitable or very profitable. So in came Carl Icahn, right? He's an activist hedge fund investor. And what he did to unlock shareholder value was he split the company in two. PayPal, which growth investors loved, and the sleepy auction marketplace, which value investors love because during a recession, people sell more stuff. And so what happened was that unlocked material shareholder value to the extent that eBay, core eBay marketplace, meaning auctions, as well as PayPal as separate companies were worth much more than the company as is. So the bottom line is, don't ever buy a stock that's stuck between growth and value. All right, moving on to Zubair, who wrote, I'm Zubair Uddin from Hyderabad, India. Excellent. Pleasure to meet you. I've worked with lots of people based in Hyderabad as well. When I was on the board of a company called Cohesi, a lot of our engineers were there. Yeah. You wrote, I'm an engineer by qualification, and I want to get into investment banking and learn capital raising and mergers and acquisitions. And I want to really work in the United States. I'm planning to do my master's. Could you suggest what courses I should take? Master's in finance or master's in management or an MBA? Yeah. So before ever considering, and I'm going to answer this generically to apply to everybody in this call. Before ever considering going to university for any degree, I want you to ask yourself why. If the reason is so you can change careers or get a better job, then before you do that, before you waste your money spending $100,000 on an MBA plus lost income over 2 years, what I want you to do is this. I want you to, step 1, make an amazing LinkedIn profile. Step 2, set up as many informational meetings as you can. And I want you to do 100 informational meetings with people in companies you want to work at. And if after all 100 meetings, you still cannot make that career change, then consider getting a graduate or a university degree or an MBA. And think of these 100 meetings that you set up as saving you $1,000 each, because an MBA will cost you about 100 grand, much, much more than that actually. Yeah. Your network is your net worth. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. I want you to network like crazy. Now, let me answer the question a different way. You mentioned that you're living in India and you want to work in the United States. So I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay. Visas aside, doesn't matter if you have a visa or not. And this is a long-term strategy. Here's what you got to do. Find an American company, a big one, that's based in India, that has an office like Microsoft does in your hometown. Okay. It's got to be a big American company. Work there for 5 or 10 years. Really work hard, network, get mentors internally. You'll get promoted a couple of times. Then you'll get to a level where, to get promoted to the next level, because you're so money, you're so good, they're going to transfer you to the mothership, meaning the headquarters for Microsoft, for example, in the northwest of the United States in Redmond, Washington State. They'll transfer you. They have more money, assets-wise, more cash than a lot of small countries. Therefore, they have an army of lawyers that will get you the appropriate visa. Now, that's a long-term strategy, but it's doable. Yeah. And as Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. Always think long-term. And when I worked at Goldman Sachs, they said, always be long-term greedy. Yeah. All right. All right, next up, Tommy wrote, what's the benefit of owning shares in a privately held company if the company has no desire to go public or be acquired? And how are the shareholders typically compensated? Yeah, usually in the form of dividends, or let's say you own 20% of the company, you might get 20% of the profits. Yeah, I don't recommend doing it unless you own 100% of the firm yourself. Yeah, and I don't recommend that people invest in private companies from people they know. And I'll tell you why. So if a buddy of yours ever pitches to you a startup and says, hey, do you want to invest? I want you to think this. Don't say this, but I want you to think this. Why am I so lucky to be given this opportunity? It's probably because nobody else will invest. And you might lose that friendship longer term as well when money's involved. Don't do it. If you look at the top 10 venture capital firms on the planet, Kleiner Perkins, Andreessen Horowitz, etc., only 1% of the companies that they invest in, they do a lot of due diligence, only 1% become unicorns, meaning billion-dollar companies. 1%. And they have an army of people looking into that as well. Sequoia, I just did a vlog teaching you all about venture capital. Sequoia has 5% of their investments in unicorns. It's unbelievable. And if you want to learn more about venture capital, what you can always do is go to my YouTube page right here, and then just go to my latest video right here. I think it was like last Sunday or something. I published this video on venture capital. I explained, really poured my heart into it. Check it out if you want to. Yeah. Okay. I love what I do. I love what we do. All right. Give me 1 second to catch up here. Okay. All right. Next up, hey, Ted, how are you? And Ted always has great dad humor, and I love him for this. All right. Here's Ted's joke of the week. I love this. I can't figure out women. Yesterday, my wife told me to put mustard on the grocery list. I did, but now I can't read it. What gives? I like that. Okay, good. Very good. I love it. Very cool. Okay. And then Zubair wrote, should I get work experience before coming to do a master's in the United States? Yeah, just defer to the answer I just gave you. Thanks. Okay. Next up, Brandon wrote, hi, Chris. I wanted to thank you as I bought your book and really appreciate it. Enjoyed it so far. I love the downloadable content. It's very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I haven't really marketed this thing. So what happened was a couple of years ago, McGraw-Hill approached me about this book I wrote called Finance Essentials. Dude, it was painful. oh my God, there were like hour-long conversations about grammar and stuff. But you can find this if you want on Amazon. I haven't really promoted it, but if you want, you can write a review if you want. Yeah. Okay. Closed mouths don't get fed, right? Thank you for that. All right. Cyan wrote, I'm considering a CFA. Any advice? I'm a huge fan, by the way. Thank you. Yeah. So for a CFA, don't put it on your resume until you completed all 3 levels. For writing the CFA, you can do what I did, which will save you time. So the CFA, they recommend a ton of textbooks to buy, which is like close to $1,000 now. It's cray-cray. Instead, I want you to buy a couple of books from a company called Schweizer, okay, which will cost you $30 or $40 used on eBay. So do a search on Schweizer, which is owned by Kaplan, which is owned by the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, who's now friends with Trump. How things have changed. Okay. All right. Next up, Ali wrote, I'm also thinking of writing CFA level 1 next year. I want to transition from being environmentalist to being a financial analyst and one day run my own hedge fund. I'm passionate about investing. Excellent. I'm here to help you with that as well. I started my own hedge fund years ago. I can certainly help you understand how to do it, how to raise capital, etc. Yeah. But I recommend working at a hedge fund first to get a track record. All right. Next up, Tommy wrote, can you explain GDP and how it's calculated? And this is accurate. Also, is there any significance that a GDP would have on the common person? Yeah. The easiest way to think of GDP, which stands for gross domestic product, is revenue for the whole country. That's it. That's all it is. Right? And GDP per capita means revenue for the whole country, meaning GDP divided by the population. That's it. Yeah. And in Canada, the GDP per capita is much lower than the United States. But in Canada, real estate prices on average are higher than the United States. And this is why there's a major financial crisis occurring or about to occur, get worse in Canada, given the tariffs. Yeah. I agree with some tariffs, but certainly not all of them. Yeah. And please, Canadians, I'm Canadian. I'm very passionate about what I do. When you go to hockey games, don't boo the American anthem. Okay, maybe it's one person you don't like, but it's not all Americans. Yeah, that breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart what the American hockey team, one of their players, I'm not going to mention his name, said the other day about Canada. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Neo wrote, thanks for answering your question. I was talking about Germany, yeah, which goes down a similar route to Canada. Glad we have the same opinion on the current state of Canada. I'll be sticking around. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to Tommy, who wrote, can you explain how Nvidia stockholders lost billions of dollars due to the stock going down on DeepSeek? I'm curious how that works and the impact on Nvidia. Yeah. People tend to freak out. And as Warren Buffett once said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. And the stock has nicely recovered since. So what happened with Nvidia was a couple of weeks ago, a product actually on January 20th, which is Inauguration Day, DeepSeek was released, which was basically put on the map by a very wealthy Chinese hedge fund portfolio manager. And DeepSeek can apparently do everything, they say, everything that ChatGPT can do at a fraction of the cost. Okay, I like ChatGPT way better for many reasons. Also, go to DeepSeek and do a search for what happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989. You're not going to get a response, right? I don't trust that. So, but what happened was it dropped, Nvidia dropped materially because ChatGPT buys, OpenAI, parent company ChatGPT, buys a ton of Nvidia products. And if there's another competitor, it doesn't need the latest and greatest Nvidia chips or GPUs to run its algorithm, its AI algorithm, then that's bad for Nvidia. That's one data point. That's it, though. Yeah. And use DeepSeek while you can. I do think it's a matter of time before it gets banned, at least in the United States. Yeah. Yeah. And on that day, actually, Nvidia's market cap dropped by well over $500 billion. It was the biggest one-day drop in history for a stock. Let's take a look at the stock and see what's happened since to see if it's recovered. I think it might have. Let's go here. Let's go to ticker NVDA. Don't pay for any software online or websites. Use Yahoo Finance or whatever is free. All right, let's go year to date. Yeah, look at this, man. Unbelievable. Okay, so here is the drop here. $500 billion gone, right? And then it's recovered. Wow, it's basically closed that gap, more or less, almost. Yeah, incredible. And we all make the cardinal sin of investing when it comes to selling something because it goes down. It's illogical. We have to be unemotional and long-term focused whenever we invest. We've all sold stocks in our portfolio over the years because the chart looked like this. Now the stock is way, way higher. In fact, real estate, which crashed in 08, if you bought at the peak of the market, real estate in 07, late 07, early 08, you'd be up a lot. The same thing with stocks, any dip. I humbly believe that over the next 20 years, the S&P 500 will be up 15 to 20% on average. There will be big down years as well. So I'm very, very bullish in the S&P, partially because of AI. Because a lot of companies are cutting expenses materially, replacing people with AI, and those expense cuts go right to the bottom line. Yeah. And if all you did was you put your 20 or 25K, depending on what country you're in, per year in your retirement savings program, and you bought the S&P 500. And I know it's hard to do 20 or 25K every year. Times can be tough. But if that's all you did, you'd have well over $1 million in 20 years. And you'd sleep at night because we don't care about the path. We care about the destination. Now, if your spouse did it as well, you'd have over $2 million in 20 years. If you matched out your educational savings account for each kid, which is for each kid over their life, 18 years until they go to school, that's $700,000 each, just putting in the S&P. So now we're talking about $2.1 million here, plus $2 million from you and your spouse, just investing in the S&P. Do your research first. So that's over $4 million. Now, if you bought real estate at the same time, then your net worth will go up massively because you're not wasting money on rent. Yeah. And let me show you a very quick exercise. And for those of you listening to the podcast, we're syndicated everywhere. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very quick exercise to show you how much money you can save. All right. So what I'm going to do here is, what is your monthly rent? Let's say it's $2,500. Okay. Now for 50 years, if you invested that monthly rent at a return of 15%, okay, then that would mean, right, every month in the markets, you'd have, this is crazy, $345 million. For those of you that are math nerds like me, there is the math right there. Okay, you can always screenshot it right there. Yeah. Save, save, save. Live below your means, folks, always. Yeah. Okay. And then Ted wrote, great game tonight, can't wait. Yeah. And then Sergio wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? And then you wrote, have you ever shorted a company? Oh, yeah, a lot. Yeah. How do you determine when it is an ethical move and when it's not? In the end, you're betting that a company will lose. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I quit the hedge fund industry, or I say my hedge fund into a venture capital firm. So it was the fall of 2008. We were within 24 hours of bank machines not working. I was massively short the market. In the month of October, the markets were down 25 or 30%. I was up 3 or 4%. And I came into work every day in my hedge fund, hoping that companies would go bankrupt so I can make money. And I was short a ton of bank stocks, right? And it was illegal to short bank stocks after September because the United States government put 800 companies on the no short list. So I kept my shorts on. So I come into work every single day, hoping banks would go bankrupt. And I realized that, my goodness, Chris, you're hoping and profiting from people losing their houses, from people losing their jobs. And that was a big ethical dilemma for me, and I was miserable because of it. Yeah. So I transitioned to venture capital, which I enjoy much more so. I invested in Facebook pre-IPO, Palantir, and tons of other companies as well. Yeah. The longer the view, the wiser the intention. Okay. All right, next up, K West wrote, I thought this was live. Now you're just repeating. Repeating? How am I repeating? I don't understand. This is live. Let me know what you mean by I thought this was live. This is Chris. I'm not AI. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Zubair wrote, but I love you. Zubair wrote, I heard that recruitment cycle is very different for investment banking. Yeah, it's tough. So the way it works for investment banking is if you want to get an internship and you're an undergrad, you interview now for not this summer, but next summer, right? And it's extraordinarily competitive as well. Yeah. And my son is going through it right now. He's working part-time for an investment bank, and he's interviewing right now for summer internships. Yeah. Okay, he had his interview. He interviewed with Goldman, B of A, and stuff. He hasn't heard back yet. But I keep telling him, don't worry. You only have to be right in business one time. Very competitive. Okay. Next up, Sergio wrote, can you network on LinkedIn without knowing them in person? Absolutely. It's the best way to do it. The best way to do it. And in my MBA program, you can go to HarounMBA.com. In the very first couple lessons, I teach you how to network and do that because your network is your net worth and relationships are more important than product knowledge. Yeah. That's the key to business is networking. Eileen Deo Gracias wrote, hello, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you. Eileen is one of my amazing platinum students from my first MBA program last decade. She's based in hot Atlanta, very hot there. And she has the best name ever. Last name is Deo Gracias, which means thank God. So thank God for you and for everybody in this call. And whenever I get up in the morning, before I get out of bed, actually, I always do this, which puts me into a peak mental state. I practice gratitude. I thank God for 10 things in this order. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, my wife, Christine, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, my sister, Elizabeth, memory of my sister, Katie, and all of you, my students. Thank you. I'm grateful. Deo gracias. Okay. And then Jazzy wrote, how do we learn stock ETFs with dividends and investing? Yeah, the best way to do that, and don't ever pay, as I mentioned, for any website that's going to charge a fee because you can get all this for free. I want you to go to etfdb.com. That's etfdatabase.com. And what you can do is you can screen right here ETFs, right? You can screen by asset class. You can also screen by geography as well. So for example, if you wanted to invest in Brazil, there's 240 different Brazil ETFs here. My favorite ETF in Brazil is usually EWZ right here. And this way you can get exposure to Brazil, and the fees are 60 basis points, which means 60 cents per $100 you invest each year. Holdings, Petrobras, etc. A lot of natural resources companies. Natural resource rich economy is Brazil, just like Canada, as well as Australia. And that means whenever commodity prices go up, those three currencies, meaning the Brazilian real, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, tend to go up as well, and vice versa. All right. Manas, how are you? Manas, one of my silver students from Calcutta. Great to see you. He's been on almost every one of my webcasts. I love you. He wrote a great book called Bonds Before Business. Please buy it. Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Hope all is well. Sorry I'm a bit late, but I'm back to the shrine of HEB. Great to see you, brother. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you today on the 1 hour silver call that we're going to do at 10 a.m. in about an hour. Yeah. All right, moving on to Prakash, who wrote, hi, Haroun. Hey, man. I'm a first-year graduate student who's seeking jobs, but I was struggling to get calls and interviews. So if your jobs interview LinkedIn resume course would be beneficial if I get it. Yeah, I recommend taking my MBA program as well. I've got a 30-day 100% money back guarantee as well. If you're not getting a 10x return in the first 30 days, get your money back. You can always go to HarounMBA.com, products and services, MBA degrees to learn more right here. Yeah. All right. Let me get away from that to the next question. Okay, moving on to Jansky, who wrote, good morning, Chris. Back in the United States and still trying to get over the jet lag. Yeah, the way I get over jet lag, I used to go to Japan a lot when I worked at Goldman Sachs years ago. And actually, the first deal I worked on, I was just a grunt, was the NTT Docomo IPO. I was a very good photocopier of prospectuses, prospecti. Yeah. Okay. But the way I get over jet lag is I stay up 24 hours. It's the only way. Okay, next up, I've got Manas wrote, Palantir fell 10% more. Aswa Damadoran said, he is always confused on the company and its business. What are your thoughts? And is Palantir only good because it has U.S. government and more government around it? Yeah. So yeah, as well as clients, including the Indian government. Yeah, so I invested in Palantir when it was private many years ago. I sold my shares right before the IPO. I needed liquidity, as we all do in venture capital. So I think Palantir is a great company longer term. And Palantir, actually, this is fascinating. A lot of people don't know this. But without Palantir, the Obama administration would not have found Osama bin Laden. What they did was they used Palantir software, PLTR is the ticker, to be able to find patterns data patterns, etc., using AI back then to be able to find bin Laden. Yeah. And it used to be mainly U.S. focused. Palantir, I think that the biggest contract was with the CIA for years. The CIA's venture capital division, In-Q-Tel, invested in Palantir and put them on the map. And I met with, it was George Hoyam from In-Q-Tel when I was doing due diligence on the company. So if you want to learn about what the United States government is investing when it comes to technology, just go to iqt.org. Okay. And so the CIA, it was the first notable, I think, investor and client in Palantir. Now, Palantir, here it is here, Palantir, yeah. Palantir, it's not just for government contracts. A lot of their biggest clients now are banks that are using Palantir to find cybersecurity issues when it comes to their infrastructure. And governments around the world also use Palantir to crack down on human trafficking, drugs trafficking, and much, much more. Yeah. Now, in terms of Damodaran, it's interesting you mentioned that. Let me explain who that is to people on the call here. So I used to work at a big hedge fund called Citadel. And I spent a half an hour one-on-one, after I got the job, talking to Ken Griffin, who's the billionaire founder of Citadel. Brilliant guy, nice guy as well. He can talk about anything too. He's so smart. And when I was in his office in Chicago, this is before they moved to Florida. When I was in his office in Chicago, and whenever I'm in anybody's office that's more successful than me, which is every meeting I have in every office, what I always do is I look at the bookshelf to see what books they have. And what I saw on Ken's bookshelf was a book by Damodaran, who's a professor from NYU. So immediately I ordered his books as well, as should all of you. Okay. Next question is, it's so weird and strange. So many people who work at private equity or venture capital or investment banking at CFA level 1 through their LinkedIn only. I haven't noticed that. Yeah. I don't think it makes sense to add level 1 to your profile. It's like saying, I don't know, I did half a certificate. Yeah. And then Manas wrote, will Intel die or be acquired because it's lost its way? And can we blame founders as men are mortal beings? Is there comeback possible? Or will it have a baton death march? Yeah. So the problem with Intel, and my philosophy in investing in tech companies, is I never invest in tech companies when all the founders have gone. Because when all the founders leave a company, you have a 99% chance of not making a killing. And only one company in 100 is a good investment when all the founders leave. There's classic examples like Apple. But when all the founders leave, bureaucracy sets in. And what happens is people don't take risks. And the reason is as follows. When Jeff Bezos was involved with Amazon or Bill Gates, they didn't care about Wall Street earnings or short-term estimates. They didn't even get on a lot of earnings calls. They were long-term focused. The board loved them. Investors loved them. But when the founders all leave a company, senior executives are very short-term focused. Because if your stock blows up and you have a couple of bad quarters, you're toast. You could be done. And so the biggest risk for senior executives in companies that are bureaucratic where the founders has left, the biggest risk for them is taking a risk. Because if you're a senior executive, let's say you're a senior vice president in a company, okay, and you take a risk to start a new product and you fail, you're done. So, and if you're successful, maybe make a little bit more, whatever. There's not that many positions above you, C-level executives. So the biggest risk is taking a risk. Yeah. And that's what's happening right now with Intel, which I wouldn't be surprised if it got broken up into a couple of pieces by a private equity firm. It'd be a big deal. And then, a lot of semiconductor companies like AMD, Nvidia, Marvell, Broadcom, etc., will buy pieces of it. Yeah. I used to call Broadcom Fraudcom because I used to short that stock. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Sue wrote, hello from South Africa, Johannesburg. Great to see you, Sue. And I just hired an incredible head of sales, Lloyd Yip, who's also based in South Africa. Good guy. All right. Mike wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning to you as well. Moving on to Manas, who wrote, is inflation a big issue still? Because if Doge sends stimulus checks of $5,000 to you all, Will it lead to inflation and speculation in markets? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that would have as big of an impact. So what the Trump administration announced last night is, as a way to appease Democrats and people that disagree with the whole Department of Government Efficiency, he said, what we're thinking about doing now is giving 20% of all the savings we get in terms of checks going out to Americans, which would be kind of like stimulus checks, I guess. Now, 20% would also, per Trump's speech last night, go towards paying off the deficit. I don't understand why more than 20% wouldn't. I mean, I would say at least 50, 70, 80% should go to paying off the deficit. Yeah. But would that lead to massive inflation? No. I think the bigger deal with inflation in the United States, the risk is counter tariffs, right? If there's a tariff war, which could happen, but if there's a tariff war, what that means is every product is more expensive in America, every imported product, right? Short-term pain for long-term gain. And that means prices would go up for a lot of things. Yeah. Yeah. We live in interesting times. Yeah. But I think the way that Trump thinks is that he's concerned about the net worth of Americans in average, right? So if he were to do something and the stock market were to crash, that's a real-time gauge of his performance. I think he'd reverse course pretty quickly. And the way that Trump works, love him or hate him, it is what it is there's nobody better on the planet that can get a deal done. Right? He wrote a book about this back in the late 80s I read when I was a kid called The Art of the Deal. And usually when two people negotiate, one party says, I want this, the other party says, I want this, they meet in the middle. The way that Trump does it is one party says, I want this, Trump says, I want this, and they meet maybe here. Yeah. And this was evident, actually, in terms of the market pullback when it was about a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, when it was a Monday morning, he was supposed to put on massive tariffs in Canada. The market, the futures were down a lot, and then he reversed course. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to Mike, who wrote, what is COGS in the tech industry after first year, meaning after cost of developing the software application, et cetera? I'm talking about service and subscription business model companies. Yeah. Yeah. So the way that income statements work is you have revenue at the top. Revenue and sales is the same thing, right? Then at the bottom, you have earnings. That's why they say, what's your bottom line earnings? What's your top line growth? That's revenue. Then right below revenue, we have cost of goods sold. Okay. And so that's basically the cost of what you're selling. So if you're selling, I don't know, pencils, it's the cost of materials, machinery to make this bad boy right here. If you're in a consulting firm, it's the cost per hour of what you pay your employees, right? So when I used to work at a consulting firm called Accidenture, it's a good company, back in the 90s when I was a kid, I literally made $9 after taxes, but they billed me out at $100 to $150. So the cost of goods sold would be the $9 or more before I pay taxes on that. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. And for a SaaS company, software as a service company, it would be the infrastructure costs for selling that product online when people download it. Yeah. And software companies, internet companies often have very high gross margins. Gross margins is revenue minus COGS. Okay. That's gross profit divided by revenue. Yeah. And so Oracle's gross profits are usually like 90%. Because what is software? You don't need a factory to make it. It's just digital. Yeah. Okay. Eileen wrote, how do I determine the financial outlook on a country? Yeah. Ooh, it's tough. It's tough. It's really hard to forecast interest rates, etc., tariffs. And quite often we get fooled by randomness and black swan events. Will occur, meaning a rare event, which Taleb wrote this great book about, that will cause GDP to materially grow or drop. But I would just use common sense as well. I'm probably less optimistic on Canada for now, just given the fact that tariffs are going up and they've got the worst prime minister in history there. Yeah. But if you want, you can always go to the World Bank's website or the IMF's website as well and download data from there. It's hard. It's hard forecasting currency rates, etc. All right, next up, Sue wrote, South African weather has been rainy for the past 10 days. The farmers must be very happy. Otherwise, we're all doing well. Great. Excellent. Excellent. I hope there's not as many blackouts anymore. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Zubair, who wrote, I got my MBA from Pathway, 1 year only, admission to Drexel University. It cost $50,000. including tuition fee and living cost university, and also offers co-op, which covered half the cost. Main concern is covering the full-time job to opt for OPT. Yeah. And if you want, if you're in my Silver MBA, you can join me in less than an hour on our 1 hour Zoom. I'm happy to talk you through whether you should decide to go or no go. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, please keep typing your questions. I'm going to take a very short break. I'm going to show you a trailer that I humbly spent 150 grand making. I rented a couple of studios in Hollywood, including the studio that American Sniper was made at with Bradley Cooper, as well as lots of Clint Eastwood movies. I'll be right back. Thanks.
I don't know how to say it, so I'm just going to say it. I'm teaching a comprehensive course on Microsoft Excel. But let me tell you, Excel is a magician's hat that pulls out solutions to problems you never thought possible. As a former beta tester wizard for Microsoft, I've created more spreadsheets than stars in the sky. Come with me on a journey that will blow your mind. We're going back to a time when accounting was done with, well, sand. This is 5,000 years ago when the ancient Mesopotamians ruled the world, and clay tablets were the ultimate tech. They invented writing and spreadsheets before spreadsheets even existed, with wedge-shaped writing called cuneiform pressed into clay tablets. They tracked their trades, taxes, and loans like it was nobody's business. Ah! I think I'll add new shoes to the miscellaneous expenses column. And then came the paper ledger, the smartphone of the Middle Ages. The first tech revolution that changed the game for accountants and merchants everywhere. It allowed them to record several hundred financial transactions per day, a step up from clay tablets. And just when it seemed like spreadsheets had hit their limits, a new technology emerged. Computers with raw power at your fingertips. Programs like VisiCalc and Lotus 123 allowed for thousands of calculations per day. But with great power comes great responsibility. The undo function was yet to be invented. And today, Excel can do billions of calculations per day. So next time you open up the app, remember the journey it took to get here. And who knows where we'll go from here. Join me and unlock your full potential to wield thousands of years of history like a true wizard.
All right, thank you for letting me take a short break there. Remember last week I was losing my voice. What I did was I bought this product. You guys should get this before your interviews or presentations. It's called Clear Voice, and you spray it in your throat when you're losing your voice, and it comes back. It's pretty cool. All right. All right, so next question is, please keep typing your questions, everybody. What's the trading approach between a hedge fund and an investment bank? Yeah. Investment banks don't trade. Okay, don't think of an investment bank as them investing money. What an investment bank does is it's kind of like a consulting firm for big companies that want to do a takeover, merge with another company, or go public. And so what investment bankers do is, they create all the paperwork needed along with lawyers to underwrite documents like S1 documents, et cetera, for companies that are going public. Investment banks also have distribution channels all over the world, the big ones do, to be able to sell an IPO. So whenever you see a trading floor on television, A trading floor is often owned as part of an investment bank like Goldman Sachs. And the trading floor basically has people on it, salespeople, sales traders, and traders, that have relationships with the top mutual funds and hedge funds all over the world. And they use the trading floor as a cost center sometimes. Sometimes they don't make money. But the purpose is to distribute IPOs. Okay, it's a distribution force. And the bulk of the profits for investment banks is from underwriting as well as M&A. So that process I just mentioned with trading floors, okay, that's an IPO. What investment banks also do is they help with, and they can take fees, sometimes up to 5% or so on the sides of the deal. Very profitable. And what investment bankers also do is they work on mergers and acquisitions. So if one company wants to buy another company, both companies have their own consultants, meaning investment bankers, different investment banks advising them. That's the best way to think about it. In terms of trading, I mean, a lot of hedge funds do trade, but I would say the best hedge funds on the planet are longer term focused. They make 1 to 3 year bets, right? They're not day traders, okay? And if you want to learn more about why I'm adamantly against day trading and why you will lose a lot of your money if you do that, please don't ever day trade. You can always go to my YouTube channel, okay? Go to videos, and then go down here, and you'll see why day trading doesn't work. Where is it? It's somewhere here. Give me 1 second. Here it is here. Why day trading doesn't work, okay? And this got a lot of views. Very controversial, though, but you can read through this. And I do have a lot of haters, I think, down here in the comments, and a lot of scammers trying to get other people to invest through them as well. The reason why day trading doesn't work is a couple things. Number one, we can't name a well-known person that's been a day trader that's been successful. Also, every month has 20 days. That's 20 weekdays, I should say. That's 20 weekdays where the markets are open. How the hell do we know what's going to make stocks go up or down on a daily, weekly, or even monthly basis? You know, we can be fooled by randomness. Stocks can go up or down because of what Trump says, or because of trade wars, or because of unemployment statistics, inflation statistics, etc. Or stocks could go up and down because of black swan events, a rare event. Black swans are very rare, except for in Tasmania, Australia. A black swan event, like a 9/11 or some attack or yada yada. Yeah. Or, I don't know, like ridiculous comments on calling. I'm not going to go there. I was going to say something about Ukraine. Okay. All right. Okay, give me 1 second. But also wrote, I'm writing my third book. I should make a deadline now. Give me a date and make it tough. I promise I'll deliver. Just make it shoot for the moon. Okay, I'll give you a deadline. October 1st. Yeah. And I want everybody on this call to write a book. It's really easy to do. I have a template for you as well. Go to harounmba.com/writebook, all lowercase write book, to get a template. And what really helped my career, humbly, was when I worked in venture capital. Okay, what I did was I wrote one article every week for about 2 years on my LinkedIn profile. Then what I did was I took all those articles and I put them into this book. I self-published. I refused to let any publisher take this book. And Obama's editor called me right after I published it, tried to get the rights. Never. This is mine. And what you do, what I did was I made the first articles, the ones that got the most clicks, likes, views, whatever, controversial topics on LinkedIn. Then I would go to meetings and I give this to people, and eventually by networking, Forbes called it one of 6 books every entrepreneur needs to read right now. You can do this too. And when you go to informational meetings, informational interviews, you're going to give this to people. And if you think that's too much work, and I ask you this, and I say it with love in my heart, how badly do you want that job or that customer? This stuff works. Then you repurpose the content. This is what Nintendo's been doing since the beginning of time. So Nintendo is the oldest tech company in history. It wasn't always a tech company. It's over 100 years old. What Nintendo does is they take their older 8-bit, 16-bit, 64-bit games, etc., and they repurpose them on new consoles, right? So they repurpose the content, on the Wii, Wii U, Switch, and Switch 2, which comes out later this year. I can't wait to get it. Repurpose that. And I repurpose each of these articles as videos on YouTube and other platforms. and courses, and all of it in an MBA program. This is the manuscript for You 2.0. I want everybody to write a book. Tons of my students have done it. I'm going to show you the template really quick. I'm not asking for your email or nothing or anything, as my mom would correct me right now. Let me show you how to do it. Okay. So you go to harounmba.com/writebook. Okay. And you're going to find this template here. You're going to click here to download the template. It's really, really easy to use. One page of instructions. I tell you how to publish it on Kindle Direct, which means Amazon Kindle, as well as Amazon Print and Audible, which is acx.com. And if you want, the only expense is going to be hiring somebody to make the cover of the book. Please click here and use Ultracon22. She's based in Bangladesh. She's great. Tip her well. Thank you. You write all this stuff, right? And then you're going to right click on the table of contents and repaginate. It's that simple. Everybody, please write a book. It'll do wonders for your career. Thanks. Cost you nothing. Okay. All right, next up, Sue wrote, Chris, do you have any advice on starting a business consulting firm? I mean, assisting small business with strategies, growth management, securing funding, compliance, etc. Yeah, great idea. I love it. And here's why. In North America, there's more than 100,000 consulting firms. The reason there's so many is because they're so easy to start. There's no inventory. You don't have to worry about inventory. There's no startup costs. It's just you. So in order to get clients and in order to have people think of you as the thought leader, I want you to do this. On your LinkedIn profile, obviously make a great LinkedIn profile. My MBA program teaches you how to do that. Then what I want you to do is I want you to write one article per week, like I used to do, on LinkedIn, okay? And if you do this enough times, then it's like the Rodin sculpture, I think, therefore I am, you're thought of as a thought leader. And then after a while, the media will reach out to you, I promise you, but you got to be consistent. And you got to remember it's a marathon, not a sprint. One article every single week. The articles are easy to make. Write it on whatever you're consulting about. Everybody should do this on whatever domain they work in. The articles are fun to make. And here are the parameters. And I have my own column in Forbes magazine. And I used to have my own in, I think it was Inc. or Entrepreneur magazine years ago. And here's advice from my editor on how to write. Step 1. People don't have the attention span they used to. So make it like 600 words max. That's easy, right? Step 2, never have more than 3 sentences per paragraph in anything you write in business for the rest of your life. It's just easier to digest and see. Step 3, focus on the image and the title more than the content of your book. Now, Mr. Beast, what he does is Mr. Beast, before he makes a video, before he scripts it, he makes the thumbnail and the title. Focus on that, because without clicks, you know that you're not going to get any views at all if the image isn't great. It's like judging a book by its cover, etc. So write one article per week. Then what I want you to do is this. I want you to network aggressively using the networking methodology I talk about in the first couple lectures of my MBA degree program. Set up informational meetings with people that work at big media publications. You can network with them easily, right? Like, for example, I've had conversations with people at the Wall Street Journal, et cetera, and others. And what I've done is I do an advanced search in LinkedIn. I find people in the media. This has helped me a lot. I find people in the media, and what I'll do is I'll send them a LinkedIn message that says something like this. Subject line is resource for your articles. Content is Joanne. Hope all is well. I work in the education sector. And then say something controversial like this. I believe that in 50 years, there will only be 30 or 40 universities left in the world. And here's my company. If you want, I'm happy to talk to you about this in more detail. Let me show you so I can walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. I did this recently on LinkedIn, okay? And if you offer to help people, you give, as I mentioned at the beginning of today's webcast, you will receive. So let me go to messages here. And let's go to right here. All right. So Lindsay Ellis, who's a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, I read her article and about how MBAs aren't doing well, yada, traditional MBAs. And then I gave her lots of quotes here. Elon Musk says, as much as possible, avoid hiring MBAs. Peter Thiel said, never hire an MBA that will ruin your company, yada, 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 just to reach out to her. And I'll show you her article very quickly. And you could reach out to journalists like this as well. She wrote it about a month ago. And she said that MBA students are not getting jobs anymore, despite the fact that that unemployment is really, really low. So if you take a look here are some of the top MBA schools right here. Over 20% of people from Harvard don't have a job after 3 months after graduation. It's crazy. When I graduated from Columbia 8 million years ago, we all had 5 or 6 jobs at graduation on average. Yeah. So reach out to people that way. And in terms of your social media content, you have to market yourself. And the only way you're going to get clients or customers longer term or take your company to the next level or your career to the next level is to be a voracious writer of articles every single week, forever. Now, when it comes to your social media strategy, whether it's YouTube, TikToks, Instas, LinkedIn's, whatever, and I do all of that, my team does, be consistent. And I don't want you to give a damn if anybody watches these things or not, okay? Most people will give up after a couple of weeks, couple of months of doing this. It's a marathon, not a sprint. This is my 307th weekly webcast. I'm never going to stop. I'm consistently bad, but at least I'm consistent. So be consistent. Then once you establish the brand of you on LinkedIn through these articles, etc., what I want you to do is aggressively network with people on LinkedIn, as I mentioned earlier today, and as I mentioned in the first couple lectures of my MBA degree curriculum. You set up informational meetings, and you come across as a resource to them, okay? So what do you talk about in the informational meeting? Well, the first thing you do is you bond before business. You talk about what you have in common, okay? You also do, and I'll come back to this in a second. You also do go to their Twitter profile, the person you're going to meet with, or X profile, and Insta profile, and see who they follow. If they follow athletes or movies or stuff you're interested in, you can talk about that as well in your meeting. Then after 10 minutes in the meeting, they're going to say to you, and they won't say it like this. They'll say, why are we meeting? Not like that, but you get it. And then what you do is you add value to them. You help them. Now, from a giving perspective, and this is a money strategy, it works, I promise you. But it's a different way to think. Understand what people are motivated by in business. People are usually motivated by 3 things. Number 1, they want to make more money. Number 2, they want to get promoted. Number 3, they want to enjoy what they do. So help them with one of these 3. So with respect to a journalist, like I just showed you from the Wall Street Journal, I reached out by offering myself as a resource and provided a lot of intel, or lack thereof, on my thoughts on the MBA sector, right? What does that do? Well, that might help that journalist to make more or get promoted or whatever. So always think of it that way. Every battle is won before it's been fought. And in my MBA degree program, I provide you with 12 templates to bring to every single interview that will help to add value to your interviewer. It's a different way to think. Give and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Okay. Oh, thank you, boss, for that $4.99 donation. God bless you. That'll go directly to the schools I build in Africa. Thank you. Okay. The question is, what's your take on UpWork and how can I get more clients? I want to sell custom software to small companies. Thank you for that question. Yeah. And you don't have to donate, but thank you. But I'll answer it in a lot of detail, of course. I use UpWork a lot, and I use it for APIs as well as getting custom code to have my systems talk to each other, like Teachable to Squarespace to Shopify for YouTube, for my courses to be on YouTube, for example. Yeah. I would do exactly what I just told you in terms of getting more clients that way. So what I would do is this, write an article every single week. And I'm going to show you guys that run your own business a really simple thing. It's going to cost you next to nothing. That's going to make your business explode to the upside. So everything you do, there has to be a call to action. So with my YouTube videos, there's always a CTA, a call to action, which is book a call with us, or here are my courses, check it out. I want you to take a step further and do this on LinkedIn. This is a game changer. Okay. So on LinkedIn, what you can do is you can set up what's called view my services. Okay. So right here, you see view my services here? Really simple. It took me 5 minutes to set up max, right? And the inbounds are ridiculous. So if we click here on view my services, and it looks like I'm having a little bit of internet problems here. Could be a LinkedIn issue. Let me try again. View my services. Here we go. Good. All right. So all I do is I write this. We offer executive coaching, yada, yada, yada. Here's a link, calendar. Okay. And then you go here, and I put a video as well. I don't think the video is really helping, but I also tagged it. You got to tag it from SEO perspective, career development, coaching, etc. Right? And so for you, you can mention whatever your UpWork skills are. Here are the requests, and these are just the requests that I have not yet answered. And I don't have any, and all these are ones here I haven't answered. I just don't have time, which is why I'm aggressively hiring in sales right now. You get tons of inbounds. If I wanted more business, I would respond to these. Again, I just hired a sales team to do this. Please set this up. Everybody, view my services. It helps. And also get into the habit, please. Get into the habit of every time you release a social media piece of content, what you're going to do is you're going to have a CTA, like a call to action. So for example, on this video here, that's my hair a couple of years ago. Awful, I know. But in this video here, I've got here, book a call with us to discuss joining, my MBA program or other consulting services. And when you set up these calls, only do it 2 days out, okay? And the reason I say that is you do it 2 days out or 2 or 3 days because the no-show rate is high if you do it a month or two out, okay? People are excited to talk to you right away. And then here, the first comment, I always pin this. Book a Zoom call, yada, 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 right here. So always think of a call to action. Now, with respect to my LinkedIn posts, and by the way, everything we do on this weekly call gets repurposed, okay? It gets repurposed into vlogs on other platforms, okay? So there's nothing left in this weekly call carcass by the time I'm done with it. But if we go here, and I get a ton of views in these, but not that many likes. Doesn't matter. Who cares, right? But let's go to this one here that was just posted. Okay. So usually what my team does is at the end, they often, not all the time, they should, they have a call to action. I'll show you one with a call to action. Let me see if I can find one here. Give me a second here. This is money. All right, let's go here. And let's go to the end of the video right here. That's when I was sick. Remember that a couple weeks ago? At the end, yeah, there it is there. Okay. At the end there, I write, download my free ebook at harouneducation.com. Okay, and that's a call to action. And it's really, really easy to set up. All you do is you write a book using the template I gave you. And this has made me humbly a fortune. So the way it works is, and I used to mention this in my call, but people criticize me for mentioning it too much, so I stopped. But the way it works is if you want to download this book, Networking to Get Customers a Job or anything you want, you go to my website and then just download it right here. Now, I get an email right here. An email, I know it sounds old school, but it's still a gold standard when it comes to marketing a product, right? And of course, I let people not be on my distribution list for GPDR reasons. Then what I do, and I've got an insanely high number of emails just from this thing here. Then what I do is my marketing team, what they'll do is they'll send out an email every now and then, about this weekly call or, about products I'm offering. We don't overdo it though. Now, what I just explained to you is a long-term strategy. And please understand, my wife works in marketing. She explained to me that marketing is different from sales because marketing is like dating. You don't get married after one date. You get married maybe after, 20 dates or something. Similarly, you don't buy, a lot of times people don't buy products from big companies after seeing one commercial, or like a car, for example, from Toyota. They'll see like 20 or 30 commercials. That's marketing, okay? And marketing turns into sale longer term. You got to be long-term greedy and think longer term as well. Now, I repurpose content from this book. This is just a couple of lectures, or a couple sections, I should say, from one of my 100 courses I published over the years. And what I do is to work smarter, not harder. I repurpose this kind of like Nintendo does. So I have all this stuff closed caption, and you can use a product called Descript. It's an AI-based product to do all this stuff for the captions, and I export it into a book. And I self-publish. Really easy to do. Helps you work smarter, not harder by repurposing your content. Yeah. So hopefully, Boss SMG, that helps you to think about how to get more clients on UpWork, etc. If you have additional questions, please let me know, and thank you as always. Okay, let me go back up to see. Okay, next up, T01B wrote, I'm from Bangladesh. Excellent. And the person that makes the covers all my books is also from Bangladesh. Yeah. She's great. You wrote, my family owns a business, net asset value of 75 grand US dollars. And we have a turnover of $250,000 each year. And we have a net profit of about 15 grand each year. My grandfather started it and my parents show interest in it. I have an engineering degree that pays me 12 grand a year. I'm confused about it. Should I grow the business or continue the job? Yeah. Think longer term. Okay. Think 10 years from now, what are your ultimate goals? Write them down. If your ultimate goal is to start your own software company, engineering company, whatever it is, then stick with the 12 grand per year. I know it's a small amount for you relative to what your company, the business your parents have. But longer term, if you think you'll be happier running your own company or working in engineering, then do that. If you think you'll be happier working with your family longer term, then do that. Now, there's a lot of politics when it comes to family businesses. There's a cliche. People say the first generation makes some money, the second spends it, and the third has none. Be careful with politics. Make sure you enjoy the job and make sure that your relationship with your parents, your brothers, sisters, etc., your aunts, uncles, if they're part of the family business, will not be tarnished. I just want you to be happy. Next question I've got here is from Neo from Germany. And anybody from Germany, I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart for Hans Zimmer. Yeah. And sometimes when I'm working, if I can't focus, which is rarely, because I love doing what I'm doing, what I'll do is I'll do this. Alexa, play the motion picture soundtrack of Interstellar by Hans Zimmer.
Day 1, Interstellar theme, radio from Spotify.
Alexa, stop. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I love this. This is Cornfield Chase. Oh, I'm getting shivers just thinking of this. Oh, what a wonderful album. But you set the soundtrack for your life. So for me, sometimes when I'm working, it gets me into a peak mental state, just cerebral intensity. My focus is unbelievable when I listen to great music like that. Okay, a little off topic, but thank you, Germany. All right. So Neo from Germany wrote, why are hedge funds still able to raise so much money when they, number one, often produce subpar results, and number two, a considerable amount of them went bankrupt in the past? Is it simply their network? Yeah. So what a lot of people don't understand is that the investors in hedge funds, a lot of time they're not looking to outperform the S&P 500 or whatever benchmark they look at. They're looking at capital preservation. Rule number one, don't lose money. Rule number two, as Warren Buffett said, don't forget rule number one. So a lot of times it's capital preservation. And in order to invest in a hedge fund, you have to be an accredited investor, meaning you have to have a liquid net worth of over $1 million. And the government set it up that way to protect the public. But a lot of these rich people, they're not interested in, making a killing. They're interested in preserving capital. Hence the term hedge fund. A hedge fund basically means, if you think of your backyard, you have a hedge around your backyard that protects your house. Okay. All right. Next question from Manas is, what does a rookie investment banker or analyst do? Imagine from the beginning to the end of the day. And also, isn't it good to run after small boutique firms and learn from them and maybe get promoted big time? Yeah. So investment banking is a very, very hard job. A lot of my students, a lot of, myself, even when I was younger, we all want to go into investment banking, but we don't really know why. We think it's glamorous because you make a lot of money. The harsh reality is this, though. It's stressful as hell. You make the exact same amount of money as your buddies do, but you work 100 hours a week. You have no life. You sacrifice your health. So why do people go into investment banking? Well, let me take a step back and explain to you what job you should consider taking if you're not sure what job to take. So if you're not sure what career you want, I want you to focus on getting what's called an origination job. And I'll give you 3 examples. Example number 1 is if you want to work in finance, work in investment banking maybe, because you're originating, meaning creating the IPO prospectus, meaning the IPO, or you're originating the M&A deal. That's one of 3 examples of origination, and I'll tell you the bottom line in a second. The second example is consulting. Consulting is an origination job. You work at McKinsey, for example, you're originating the corporate strategy. The third or 3rd example, as my son Andrew used to say, he's getting old too fast, is you work at Google or a tech company as a developer. You're originating the code, the product. Now, the reason I mention these 3 origination jobs, meaning programming, consulting, and banking, is because if you hate those jobs, you know how to make the product. You can originate the product. And as a result, If you hate originating or making the product because you understand it thoroughly, you can move on to do other things that don't originate the product. For example, in investment banking and finance, you originated the product. Well, because you understand how to make the product, you can always move on to, managing money or trading, long-term trading, not short-term, or equity sales or whatever it is, or management or operations for that product. You're more marketable. With consulting, if you hate doing corporate strategy at a firm like a McKinsey, etc., you originated the corporate strategy. You can always move on to work, at a big company like Coca-Cola or Pepsi in management or strategy, whatever it is, because you understand the origination. When it comes to technology, if you're a developer and you hate it, there's so many jobs in tech where you're extremely marketable if you understand how to make the product. You can work on to sell the product, work as a quota-carrying sales rep at a big software company where you make a fortune and make more than engineers. Or you can work, you can go into management, or you can start your own tech company as well. And if you don't like being a developer, then, consider yourself a Steve Jobs and find your Wozniak. You're yin yang, somebody that's a techie, and you don't want to be a techie, for example. So the bottom line is, if you don't know what you want to do career-wise, start thinking about an origination job. Okay. Okay, next question is, tariffs would go live soon. The month is expiring. If everybody tariffed everyone, how will the world work? And also, will Russia be exempt from tariffs because someone is interested with business with them? Yeah, so Donald Trump's strategy is this. It's retaliatory tariffs, right? So he looks, and he's been saying this since the 1980s. You can go to TikTok or YouTube, do a search on Oprah Winfrey interview with Donald Trump in the 1980s. For years, he's been saying since the 80s that America is getting ripped off by subsidizing other countries, right? So there's a lot of countries, like his argument in Canada is that Canada, there's a deficit trading between the United States and Canada of $200 billion. Why should America, and I'm Canadian, I love Canada, but he is saying, why should America subsidize $200 billion? Now, there are some countries that have massive tariffs or VAT taxes, etc., on U.S. products. And so Trump is saying, well, you know what? You've been ripping us off for years. This is him. You've been ripping us off for years. We're going to put on tariffs as well. And you might think, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. The Great Depression was started because of a tariff war like this. No. This is bargaining. This is deal making. So Trump is asking for extreme things, and hopefully he'll get something in return. So, for example, with respect to Mexico and Canada, remember a couple Mondays ago, Trump was going to put on 25% tariffs. At the last second, he pulled back a bit. And in the negotiating phase, what happened was the Canadian government put 10,000 troops on the border to stop the illegal trafficking of fentanyl, opioids, and other disgusting drugs, right? And Justin Trudeau, make Trudeau a drama teacher again. Sorry, I had to. But Justin Trudeau even created a fentanyl czar. Now, in Mexico, they did the same thing, basically. They put 10,000 troops on the border to stop the illegal importation of fentanyl and opioids and other drugs. So he got that just by bargaining and being extreme. It's the art of his deal. Again, read his book if you want to, from 1987. I think it's called The Art of the Deal. I read it when I was a kid. Yeah. Now, in terms of these 10,000 troops on the border, I love it. And I'll tell you why. Millions of people die every year in the United States, and the media doesn't talk about this enough, from illegal fentanyl, opioids. And if you haven't had a loved one or a close family member or friend that has died of opioids or fentanyl, it can easily happen. So I view what he's doing as saving lives. What I disagree with, though, is putting up massive tariffs to stop global trade. But again, I think he's just bargaining. And if the markets were to pull back, the S&P were to crash because of this, he would reverse course like that. Yeah. Okay, we don't have too much time left. For those of you in my silver MBA degree program, I'll see you in our 1 hour call starting at 10 a.m. today. It's 1 hour every week. It's a 1 hour Zoom call. For those of you in gold, platinum, and diamond, we got 3 hours, and I'm doing one-on-ones as well with my platinum and diamond students today. Quick housekeeping announcement. Again, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but next week, February 27th, there will be no webcasts or Zoom calls because I'm going to be in Cabo at a conference. but we'll resume the week after. Moving on to the next question. Okay. Yeah, Manas wrote, Nintendo used to sell gambling cards when it started off. That's right, over 100 years ago. Okay. Very paranoid company, too. They always have a massive cash balance. Yeah. And then Manas wrote, last week I discussed Cathie Wood, who's a great investor that leverages social media and the media a lot to get big inflows. And if you look at Warren Buffett's genius is not just his investing acumen. More importantly, it's because he can communicate. He's on television all the time so that he can get investors in Berkshire. And Warren Buffett, who also went to Columbia Business School where I went, he came and guest lectured to us once when I was in school. It was amazing. And he said he does not have his Columbia MBA degree or master's degree on the wall. Instead, he has his certificate of completion from the Dale Carnegie public speaking course on his wall that he took when he was 19. I also took it when I was 19 as well. That's the only two things we have in common. He's got 8 million more zeros beside his name. But I bring this up because presenting skills are key. It's something I teach. It's core in my MBA degree program. If you can present incredibly well, like Cathie Wood, who's great in interviews, I listen to her all the time, or Warren Buffett, you will be able to raise money. Yeah, for your business. Last week, I discussed Cathie Wood with you, and she doesn't have an MBA. Yeah, you don't need one. And also, her decade returns are 130%, whereas the S&P has a return of 500%. Oh, I didn't know that. What are your thoughts? And should I work for her? How would I do it? If you want to work for her, you got to, number one, what you can do is in less than 20 minutes in our weekly 1 hour Zoom call for silver students, let me take a look at your LinkedIn profile and I'll tell you how to network. Okay. In terms of her returns, I didn't realize that. I'd have to go and double check that as well. Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. Next up, Sue wrote, thank you so much. You're most welcome. I'll write articles on LinkedIn. I learned how to write articles from the course I took from your website back in 2021. Awesome. I've made every mistake in the world, so I'll teach you all my mistakes so that you can be successful. Next question's from Jazzy, who joined my recent Gold and Platinum MBA degree program. How do I do a great progress report for my boss for operations, supply chain, finance on a regular basis? Since you're in my Gold or Platinum program, we have 3 hours of office hours today, Zoom office hours. Join that, and I'll write one for you. Okay, next up, Manas wrote, AI is overrated. Or do you think AI is overrated? No, not at all. AI is a huge deal. I can't tell you how much money I've saved my company by having processes instead of people based on AI to streamline my operations. It's more efficient. Yeah. And a lot of companies right now are using AI to cut expenses. But within a couple of years, a lot of companies will be using AI to generate revenue. Now, there's a big San Francisco Bay Area company. I signed an NDA, so I can't disclose who it is. But they approached me to beta test an AI version of me, which you'll see eventually. That teaches everything I teach in multiple languages. It's almost perfect. The only thing it doesn't do correctly is my bad dad humor. I'm a small man. Yeah. And we will be deploying that eventually. Yeah, but it is frightening how good it is. Now, I recommend that everybody in this call start your own YouTube channel today or tomorrow, whatever. Publish once a week. Because if you don't do that, then in a few years, something called AGI will become ubiquitous. AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. And what that means is this. It means smarter than humans. And it means that we're going to start learning from teachers and watch YouTubers and actors that aren't real. It's scary, but it's happening. And so you only have a couple years to establish the brand of you. And I used a product called Sora. This is, oh, you guys are going to lose it when you see this. This is unbelievable. So for my B-roll, I'm not using at Adobe anymore as much. I'm using Sora, okay? So in my billions of videos and other videos you see online, you'll see videos like this, and this is B-roll. These people don't exist, by the way. I wrote here, successful, confident founder. That's it. And it always gives you 4 examples of it right here. Let me show you more examples. I told it also, hey, on the left side, make short term. On the right side, make long term. It still makes spelling mistakes. Another example, let me go down here. I wrote mean board meeting, and this is for B-roll, and it gives 4 examples. I wrote, I don't know, corporate pig or something. It made this. I know it's weird. It's kind of scary. But all these people here don't exist. And I wrote here when I was explaining in my latest vlog on Silicon Valley 101 and how venture capital was founded, I said, give me a black and white video of hippies sharing and loving. Okay? These people don't exist. Unbelievable. None of these people do. And these are all videos that took me next to no time to make. I also had a prompt, show me students rioting at Stanford University in the 1960s. Same thing with Berkeley, right here. Yeah. Yeah, and it makes mistakes too, right? I don't know why AI is so bloody intelligent, but it makes spelling mistakes. So I said, have people holding signs saying, make love, not war. And so it said, make lot war. And over here, it says, make war. Yeah, so anyway. But play around with Sora. If you use OpenAI, you can use this product for free. I refer to OpenAI as closed AI. I can talk about that if you want me to. Now, when you use Sora, you got to be careful also because sometimes it adds an extra finger or hair gets messed up. Look at that. Her hair, it looks kind of weird, right? But anyway, this is a rabbit hole I can go down. And oh, look at this one. This one's kind of funny. I said FBI shaking hands with a white collar criminal. Watch what happens here. Okay, so this guy here shakes hands. He sits down on nothing. So anyway. But it's having such a prophetic impact, AI, on Hollywood, which is in crisis mode already for many reasons. It's having such an impact on Hollywood that Tyler Perry, who makes great movies, the second he saw Sora, that product I just showed you, he decided to shut down a $1 billion CapEx expansion on one of his studios in Atlanta. Yeah. AI changes everything. So no, I don't think that AI is overrated. In terms of so the CEO founder of Nvidia, Jensen Huang, who's a great public speaker, he's very inspirational. He's telling people, college students, don't study computer science. And the reason he's saying that, his logic is that, look, AI was made, to help you with programming. So don't study it anymore. Instead, he said, study liberal arts. And the reason he said study liberal arts is because liberal arts will help you to think differently, be more expressive, more confident in presenting, etc. It'll make you more creative. And it's no surprise that Steve Jobs used to always talk about how Apple lives at the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. And Jensen Huang also said that he believes the American education system will pass the rest of the world in the next decade. And his rationale is that in the United States, unlike other countries, in the United States, when you go to university, you don't declare your major until your second or third year. And in your first, second, and third year, you study liberal arts first. Other countries don't have that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Next up, Original Chiefer. First time I see you on the call. Hope you join us again. Wrote, I know this may be personal, sure, but did your wife show you unconditional love before you got successful? I'm struggling to impress my wife, but I don't have enough capital. Yeah, no, she hated me until I made money. No, I'm just kidding. And MBA doesn't stand for married but available. No. My wife she's wonderful. She's great. When we first started dating, she said, I don't care if we live in a shoebox together. It better be a damn expensive shoebox, though. No, never. And if you start dating somebody that likes you for the wrong reasons, then that's probably not the right person to want to date. Yeah. And with my kids, and this is out there, I don't care. I'm fully transparent. With my boys, I once told my eldest son, he's in his 20s, I said, maybe don't date somebody that comes from a lot of wealth because their expectations are, All right. I hope I answered your question correctly. Yeah. And one of the biggest problems people have, and I used to have this problem too, was when I was younger, I thought, you know what, man, I'm not going to get married until I make my fortune. What a pathetic way to live. And even more pathetic is people say, I'm going to work my ass off my whole life so I can retire. So you can like enjoy 10 years of your life. Like, what is that? Be happy today. And as Dale Carnegie said, live in day-tight compartments. And don't worry about the future. Keep your head down, work hard and all that stuff. Everything's going to work out. Don't worry. It's not work that kills us. It's worry. Things will work out. Hakuna Matata. And God wants you to be happy every day. That's right. So be happy. Okay, next up, Sergio wrote, I've been investing for 4 years and I've outperformed the S&P 500. Nice. Do investment funds take that into account when hiring somebody as a junior, or does it have to be work experience at a fund? Yeah, a lot of hedge funds or mutual funds, if you mention that sort of thing, what they'll probably say is this an audited track record? They'll also ask you about risk management to the extent that, did you have all your eggs in one basket? Like, did you outperform because 50% of your portfolio in the past 4 years was Nvidia, for example? They want to see diverse risk management, portfolio management capabilities to the extent that what I like to do is have at least 20 stocks in my portfolio. No stock is more than 5% of capital. And never have more than 20% in one sector. So if 80% of your investments is in tech, and tech has done great in the past 4 years, right? They're not really going to take that into account. They're going to look at what's called alpha, meaning how much did you outperform a certain benchmark by, while using good risk management diversification. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Gustavo wrote, I have an investment banking super day at B of A today. Do you have any tips? Yeah. My son had his last night. Yeah. At B of A. It might look like this. Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be Zoom based. It could be. And 3 people are going to interview you at the same time. It might be that way. I don't know. And 1 person is going to be senior and 2 people are going to be junior. Maybe. And the senior person is going to be easy on you because they're not threatened by you. Right? It's going to be easy. The junior people, and this is usually the case in most companies that interview you, right? They're kind of like, well, who is this dude? I had to go through hell to get in here. I got a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to make it hard for them. If you can't answer a question, say, I'll get back to you on that. Thank you. The second your super day is done, your higher view, whatever they call it these days, you're going to send a thank you message to each of them. Okay? Mix up the thank you message. Don't make it the same because they might compare. And if somebody asked you a question you couldn't answer, then in your thank you message, you're going to say this. Jennifer, for example, thanks a lot for the call today, semicolon. I enjoyed our conversation. In terms of your question on convertible debt, here are my humble thoughts. Thanks a lot and have a great weekend, comma, your future boss. No. Your name, of course. Yeah. And you want to send these thank you emails as fast as you can, or emails, whatever it is, because they're going to say pretty quickly internally whether you made the next round or actually the final round to get your internship for not this summer, the next summer, how it works, right? So that could influence them if you send that thank you message. Yeah. And also, I recommend doing this. I recommend using crutches to buy you time. And let me explain what that means. So to buy yourself time, you can always answer questions by using a framework. So they ask you a tough question. You're like, that you say, that's a great question. Do you have any more? No, just kidding. You say, that's a great question. Let me answer this using a SWOT analysis. I'll kick it off. SWOT, by the way, side note, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Let me kick it off with this, these are crutches. Let me kick it off with the strengths. The strengths are yada, yada, yada. And by doing that, you bought time to think of the answer. Then you use transition words like this. In terms of the weaknesses, which is part of the SWOT analysis, the weaknesses are yada, 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 yada. Moving on to the opportunities. The opportunities are yada, yada, yada. And lastly, the threats are blah, 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 blah. Now, if you find that you are rambling, which I have done for the past 1 hour and 54 minutes, what you can do is you immediately use the crutch of, and the bottom line is, okay? But don't be afraid to tell them, I'll get back to you. When I interviewed at Goldman Sachs 8 million years ago, it was actually July 31st, July 31st, 1998. One of the dudes that interviewed me, right? He was very difficult. And I thought he was mean, but he was acting. Don't worry. They're just, Alexa, shut up. Please. Okay. Sorry. I thought he was mean, but he was just acting to see how I react under pressure. And he took, he used a tactic with me where he was trying to see if I'm BSing. So he said this. He said, what markets do you follow in Europe? And I said, oh, I follow the CAC as well as the Deutsche Börse and the FTSE. And he said, okay, give me a company on the Deutsche Börse in Germany that you follow. And I said at the time, Daimler Chrysler. That's what it was called back then. He said, okay, who's the CEO? And I said, well, Jürgen Trump. And he said, who's the CFO? And I said, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Okay. And just be yourself, okay? And right before your hire review or interview starts, I want you to tell yourself this. I don't care how this goes. I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous, but I want you to be you. Kind of like, I don't know if you've ever gone on a date, and I shouldn't be giving date advice because I suck at it, my wife's out of my league. But when you go on a date, if you care too much and you're rigid, you ain't going to get a second date. You know what I mean? But when you went on that date or you asked somebody out and you didn't really care, it worked, didn't it? I want you to use that psychology right before it starts. I don't care how this goes. And just pretend you're talking to, your aunt or uncle you haven't seen in a long time. And just be you. Smile. And what you can do is this, okay? To make you remember to smile, because all this stuff is done on Zoom now, right? The super days, the higher views. What I want you to do is this. Stick with me, kids. You'll go far. I want you to draw a smiley face like that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to put it on your forehead so they see you're happy. No, I'm just kidding. I want you to put, I'm such an idiot. I want you to put it right below the camera. And that will subconsciously remind you to smile. Peace begins with a smile, as Mother Teresa said, and Manas is from Calcutta, where Mother Teresa is from. I see there's lots more questions. I'm so sorry I won't be able to get to them. Again, next week I'm out. That's how Canadians say out. It's not out, Americans. It's out. Okay? Thank you. But if you're in the silver program or gold or platinum or diamond program, I'll see you in a couple of minutes on our weekly Zoom call. You can learn more about the MBA program by going to harounmba.com. I have a 30-day 100% money-back guarantee on all my products. My return rate on this stuff and all my products, I have 2 million paying customers in every country, humbly, is 1%. That's full disclosure for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video with a video that is going to change your life. And it's a very, very short interview with Steve Jobs that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. God bless you all. And I can't wait for our next meeting. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.